So pick one of your older relatives, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, somebody who you like to hang out with on weekends. So do you have somebody in mind? Good. Now imagine that person texts you and a bunch of your cousins and asks if you all would like to go out with them to eat on Friday night. So do you want to? Oh, of course you do. And so you and your cousins go out to eat with them, and before you order, your grandpa, grandma, uncle, aunt, whoever says, order whatever you want. It's on me. And of course, everyone feigns surprise. Oh, wow, really? Thank you. But of course, you all suspected that that's what they were going to say. And in fact, that's one of the very reasons that you are here with them, because it's very, very hard to turn down a good free meal. Now, our federal government is like that too. They text us with promises of some really sweet free deals. And then they promise to pay for those sweet free deals from their unlimited store of cash. It all works out really well for us. Or does it? Socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy characterized by social ownership of the means of production. While it shares some similarities with communism, socialism also possesses a couple of key differences. Many free market nations around the world have rejected communism while also embracing aspects of socialism. The United States is one of those nations. We can learn a couple of key lessons from socialism, which we will look at the end of the lesson. All right, let's understand what socialism is. We'll do that by first getting a good definition and explanation of socialism. Of and for socialism. Socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy characterized by social ownership of the means of production. Social ownership means that the factors of production are owned collectively by a group of people. Typically, that means the government owns the factors of production, and the idea is that since the government represents the people effectively own everything. Socialistic governments aim to eliminate free market problems such as recessions, depressions, inflation, and general inequality. Now, let's compare and contrast socialism with communism. Socialism and communism have some key similarities. First, both systems arose in opposition to the social problems caused by the capitalism-fueled industrial revolution. Second, both of these systems believe a powerful central government should plan and control most aspects of the economy. Third, both systems believe the factors of production should be owned and controlled by a central government. But on the other hand, socialism and communism have a couple of key differences as well. First, while communists attempt to bring about revolution through violence, socialists attempt to bring about gradual change through legislation. Second, while communists believe all private property must be taken from individuals, socialists believe that people can continue to own private property. Third, while communism's goal is to remove all class and economic differences, socialism's goal is merely to narrow class and economic differences. Finally, let's examine why socialism has been able to creep into nations with free market economies that have rejected communism. As you heard earlier, the primary goals of socialism and communism differ. While communism attempts a quick and whole-scale reordering of society, socialism pursues a much slower and much more gradual and less dramatic reordering of society. This key difference makes communism and socialism look very different to the average person. Imagine a bunch of communist soldiers cruising around Lynn County in tanks as they try to seize the government and bring about a communist revolution. Now, contrast that with a state senator in Oregon's capital in Salem, proposing that all children be provided with free lunches in public schools. Now, both of these scenarios are working towards somewhat similar goals, but the gut level reaction that each of us has to those two different scenarios is fundamentally different. Who wouldn't want to get a hungry little kid to have a good lunch? Now, let's look at one of perhaps the best examples of socialism in America, Medicare. Citizens in the United States have different experiences with healthcare depending where they live and how much they can afford to pay. This is because most healthcare in the United States is paid for by health insurance companies. Many workers gain access to these health insurance plans as a perk of working at a particular business. Since not everyone has access to health insurance or to the same level and quality of health insurance, the level of medical care in the U.S. varies from person to person. Socialists in the U.S. argue that good medical care is a basic human right, And to ensure that everyone receives quality, prompt medical care, socialists in the United States propose that the country adopt a single-payer medical billing system. This means that all health care would be free to all citizens and paid for by the U.S. government or the state governments or some combination of the two. The single payer in this system is the government. By allowing the government to control all aspects of the U.S. medical system, socialists believe all Americans would be guaranteed or would be provided with what they believe is a basic human right. Of course, many Americans disagree with this. Those who disagree argue that the U.S. medical system in the hands of the government would become inefficient and wasteful. They also argue that giving the government control over the medical system would ultimately give the government control over who gets to live and who has to die, when the government is deciding who gets access to health care. Proponents of a single-payer system knew that opposition to the system would be intense, too intense to pass through Congress. So they adapted their proposal to get a foot in the door. Instead of trying to provide medical insurance for everyone, they were able to get a Medicare bill passed in the mid-1960s, which provides medical care for senior citizens. Why focus on senior citizens? Well, who's going to object? Do you want Grandpa to die? Today, many of America's senior citizens are enrolled in Medicare. In fact, there is a good chance that your grandparents are some of those senior citizens. If you check your paycheck stubs, you'll see that you are being taxed to pay for Medicare. When your time comes, are you going to turn down access to free or highly reduced price health care? I doubt it. I almost certainly won't. That is, if Medicare is still around, just like Social Security. Medicare is having funding issues. Baby boomers are retiring and going on to Medicare. They are living a lot longer than their parents, which means they'll spend more time using Medicare benefits. In the meantime, the ratio of workers to Medicare recipients is falling. Also, healthcare costs in the U.S. keep rising. Time only will tell whether or not Medicare will be expanded to include a growing number of people. Stay tuned to this topic. This is probably where much of the socialism versus anti-socialism fight will take place in the United States. Finally, let's see what lessons we can learn from our discussion about socialism. First, lessening profit motives and competition. By lessening profit motives and competition, socialism will probably result in fewer and lower quality products and services. Second, socialism creeps into free markets and democracies, mostly in the form of well-intentioned social welfare programs such as Medicare. And finally, the only way U.S. citizens will stop the country's inexorable move toward socialism is by rejecting the tantalizingly sweet deals offered by our government. Let's recap what we've learned today. In our first section, we learned that socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy characterized by social ownership. We further discovered that while socialism and communism agree that the government should control most of the economy, they disagree on their final goals and how to achieve those goals. In our second section, we looked at Medicare as an example of socialism in the United States. And in our final section, we gleaned 3 lessons about socialism. It will result in fewer and lower, it probably will result in fewer and lower quality goods and services. It can creep in it does creep into free market economies very slowly, and it can only be stopped by citizens who reject it. So imagine again that your relative sends around a text to your cousins asking who wants to go out to eat. Everybody's in. It's Friday night, you all meet up, you head out, and right before ordering, your relative again says, "Hey, order whatever you want, it's on me." Again, everyone feigns surprise, and you scan the menu. But then your relative adds, but since I'm paying, I want you all to skip eating any meat. Slowly, you put down your menu, and you look with steely resolve into your relative's face, and you said, "I can take care of myself. Thank you very much. Don't take my freedoms away." Mr. Chris, out.